Well, that was basically just about everything that you were scared of as a Seahawks fan going into this game. This was everything that you were worried about in terms of a hangover, letdown kind of game. And that's most of what you can say about that, right? Like set the game tape from this one on fire. Set this one on fire because there is nothing, or so little. It's pitiful. So little you can take away from this one other than nothing really went well. 27-7, and honestly, I don't even know if that final score does it justice. The way we were bullied, we got bullied out there on the field today, dominated, and our only points came on a blocked field goal return for a touchdown, which, hey, it's cool, but is it indicative of anything that you're doing that's impressive, or is it just something that happens once every decade on average for your team? And this just happened to be our one. I kind of believe it's the latter. So, yeah, 27-7 doesn't even really do this game justice to me. And I'm not upset about losing this game. I'm not like tripping on it. This is not the year to be tripping on losses. This is not the year to get upset because um, games get ugly. Games don't go your way. Things don't go your way, of course. I was completely prepared to have a lot of games like this year. But I'm going to stick to what I said before this game started, which was the Seahawks were going into a San Francisco team that had no Kittle, that had massive problems in the inside of their offensive line. They had they didn't have their top running backs, and after a drive and a half, they didn't have their quarterback. And I know some people are going to say that, oh, that helped them. Jimmy Garoppolo being in the game helped the 49ers, which, yeah, right. But whatever, people are going to think what they want to think. The point is, you were playing a Niners team that had real problems. This Niners team had real issues on offense, and they steamrolled you. So after a game against the Broncos where the defense bent but did not break, we started to see some breakage. And I expected that it was going to happen at some point, but I certainly did not expect it was going to happen against a crippled Niners team, playing with their backup quarterback, backup running back, backup tight ends, backups along the inside of the offensive line, and I'm going to go ahead and just single that out right now in particular. This offense, they're going to have games like this. I understand. I'm not going to get upset about it. That is what it is, especially when you get down early. But this defense, not good enough. So let's start with the offense that failed to put up a single point today. I want to single out specifically Tyler Lockett from any real criticism because he played a really good game, over 100 yards, did everything he could. And honestly, I think you could single out Metcalf as well. I know he didn't put up big numbers, but you take a look at that one big play he had where he made an incredible catch, maybe the best catch of his career, and it came back on a penalty that had nothing to do with him. It's hard. It's hard to really get upset at him. It's hard to really blame that on him. So I would say those two guys, they're a little absolved. And then you have, well, you have an offense that gets you 0 points. I'm not going to say that Geno played terrible. I don't think he did. Geno probably did about as good as you would expect Geno to do in a game like this. But it obviously wasn't as good as it was last week. It obviously left something to be desired. He did miss a few throws. There were a couple places where he could have made a better play. But overall, look, Geno Smith can't be playing from behind. Geno Smith can't be playing from behind. So when your defense goes out there and gives up 13 points in San Fran's first three drives, it's what can you really expect from a quarterback who is not good enough to be playing in those situations? So I can't kill Geno specifically, especially with the offensive line playing the way that it did. It was pathetic. It was embarrassing, awful, atrocious football from the offensive line, run blocking and pass blocking. And one guy in particular I want to single out here for criticism is Gabe Jackson, who played an atrocious game on every level. We obviously had a little bit of a decision to make this offseason with Gabe Jackson, whether or not to keep him. We decided to keep him, and right now that decision looks like it looks really bad because He played so bad in this game. I don't know how you can continue to call him a good player after an effort that pitiful. So, Gabe, I don't know if you're going to get any playing time going forward. Damian Lewis got hurt in this game, so you may have to, but you got to get that together. That was an embarrassing game. You were not alone in that offensive line having a bad game. I thought Cross played, pretty good. I thought Cross mostly did his job on Bosa, which that's not easy to do. Lucas, I will say that penalty he had that took away the long Metcalf play. You have to look at that play and go, I don't know what he's really supposed to do, but obviously it took away a big play that could have flipped this game. So I'm not going to kill Lucas for that. And overall, I guess Lucas didn't play a terrible game either, but you look at our running stats in this game, 2.6 yards a carry, and what is there to say other than we are not getting the offensive line play we needed? I said before this game that we were going to have to ride the running game and let Geno be a very passive Geno, and one, we couldn't do that because the defense got jumped all over, but two, we couldn't keep any kind of a balance because we couldn't run the ball. And I saw Kenneth Walker make some impressive plays out there. This isn't a slight against him. It's not a slight against Penny. This offensive line got completely embarrassed on the interior with their run blocking. That's really the main takeaway for me from the offense. I'm not saying everybody else played good. That's not the case. But this offense was pathetic. And the one opportunity we had to punch it into the end zone, I don't know what to say about that. I assume that DJ Dallas has thrown better balls than that in practice, or else you wouldn't consider running that play, but it looks so bad. You ask yourself, what are we doing even considering running a play like that? So I don't know. I almost don't even really know how to comment on that one, because you look at that and you go, okay, DJ Dallas, he's clearly better than that. He's clearly capable of throwing a better ball than that, but the ball is so bad. It just makes you wonder what the hell the play calling is. And you're trying to figure out where to put blame on something like that, because I love plays like that. I love us running plays like that. I think that's a great idea. Brilliant idea. Do that stuff every game. You have Geno Smith. You don't have the best quarterback in the league. You have a Geno Smith. You can have Geno Smith come out a few plays a game and not feel like you're missing value. But it looks so bad, it's hard for me to give it any credit. But yeah, the offense, that was everything that Seahawks fans were afraid of when we decided to plow forward with this offense. 17 points in the first half against Denver, nothing since then. Since that first quarter against Denver, we are now sitting on 6 quarters with 0 points. And we've only really had 2 drives that showed any kind of promise whatsoever. So you got to get it together. Obviously, I was expecting this offense to be not particularly good this year, but this is beyond that. This is on a different level than just being bad. This is unplayable. This is making you question the components of this offense. So that being said, this is the year where you develop players, you try to learn, you try to bring people along, and you hope things eventually work out. But this was ugly, period. And other than Lockett and Metcalf, it's hard to find guys that you can point out for doing their job on a game like that. So everyone else, especially Gabe Jackson, get it together just so we can have a fun team to watch. I don't think there's any point in me trying to single out players on this defense, because who on this defense played good? Nobody can tackle. My God. Pete Carroll said in the preseason after the Bears game that, he's not happy with the tackling. He's going to fix it. He's going to get players who can tackle if these guys can't tackle. Well, it's week 2 and your guys still can't tackle. That was atrocious. You're playing a Niners team with a decimated interior offensive line, no Kittle, no Elijah Mitchell, and you give up almost 190 rushing yards. You give up everything the Niners want, they get. And I know there were a couple big plays in there that skewed the stats a little bit, but you got completely manhandled by an offensive line that going into this game was not viewed as being anywhere near the top of their game. And That was with no Trey Lance. If Trey Lance is in the game running that read option, do they run for 300 yards? I mean, to try to single specific players out for their inability to tackle is futile because nobody on this team tackled well, to my knowledge. God, even our studs, right? Like, Jordan Brooks couldn't tackle. What's up with that? That's all he does. That's why he's here. That's why he gets paid. Darrell Taylor, you don't look like a guy who belongs in the NFL right now, and I've been hyping you up. I love you, Darrell Taylor, but what are you doing? You look like you don't belong in the NFL at this point in time. It looks that bad, and I'm not saying you don't belong in the NFL, but right now you look that bad. You can't tackle. You're overrunning things. You're getting bullied against the run. And you're a guy who's been here for a minute now, and you're a guy we have high expectations for, so you got to get it together. So yeah, run defense terrible. The pass rush, we got a little bit here and there. Shout out to Nwosu. He's been one of the bright spots on this defense. Mafe got a sack for whatever little that was worth. It was like a 0-yard sack. But he got his first sack. But overall, you're looking at it and you're going, they are the worst versions of themselves right now. And penalties, so many penalties on cornerbacks, so many penalties on defensive backs. It's not shocking because these guys are young, these guys are new. Michael Jackson, Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant, they all occasionally look overmatched. Like, that's fine. I'm not mad about that part of it. That's a learning process. It's frustrating. It's not fun to watch. But I'm fine with these guys learning because they are so young and so inexperienced. But man, it was not fun today. Some of the calls, admittedly, not good. The refs were terrible today. Niners had one penalty called on them the whole game. And actually, that one penalty they called on the Niners was kind of soft. So, I don't know what to say about that, but a bunch of penalties called on the Seahawks. I didn't agree with all of them, but they in no way influenced the result of this game. I mean, come on. You lost by 3 touchdowns. Easily could have been more. So, I'm not criticizing the referees for costing us this game, but that got frustrating. Still, at the end of the day, you look at this and you got to say, I don't think this team was well prepared for this game. Maybe that's understandable given the fact that they just played their Super Bowl on Monday Night Football, but that was ugly. And even though the potential for a letdown game was there, even though I'm not really surprised they had a letdown game, I think that when you are playing a team like the Niners with this many problems, this many injuries, this many limitations, you should be able to do something a little better than that. And they had nothing. Their defense, I know 27 points doesn't look terrible, but you watch that game, it's pretty terrible. But it's a learning experience for most of these guys, right? Like it's not something that I'm going to lose sleep over. It's not something I'm going to get really upset about. It is a learning experience for these guys. But what do you learn from a game that bad? At the same time, as I say that, and as I think about it, it's like, do you really learn something from a game that bad? Depends on who you ask. Shout out to Woolen and Jackson on the special teams play. It was the only highlight we really had today that actually stood. It was the only moment of this game that made me feel any happiness. So shout out to them for that. They didn't play great on defense, but who did? Did anybody on this defense play well other than, okay, Al Woods and Nwosu. Okay, that's 2. Let's I'll be generous and go with that. Nwosu and Al Woods, they played fine, but everybody else on this defense, bad, really bad. 350 yards to Jimmy Garoppolo and a bunch of backup Niners running backs. No Kittle. And you see the opportunities to make plays on that defense. They just can't tackle. They get into the backfield, they hit the ball carrier, no tackle. So that's really all I can say. Just an ugly game. Not upsetting necessarily, but it is disappointing you couldn't take advantage of what the Niners didn't have. This didn't even look like an NFL game. This game got to 13-0, and it just felt like it was over. I spent a decent chunk of the end of the game paying attention more to this Denver game, which I'm going to go finish now, and the Cardinals game as well. But hopefully they learn something from it. Hopefully they get something out of this, because as a fan, you watch a game like this and you feel like you didn't get much out of it. All right, I'll see you guys in the post-game stream after dinner. Go Hawks. But that was not it.